Ashe greetings, Grand Rising, a good day, and peace and goodwill to you all. Once again, my fellow natural native earthly humans the world over. And many thanks for stopping by and for taking the time out to be watching or to be listening to this video. Yes, you don't know that this is yours truly, I, the Mystic Philosopher. And welcome to part 37. Which actually is the final episode in this my series of talks titled Can Africa Be Set Free, and Can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, be set free, the land of people of integrity, be set free. I must also apologize for an error I made the last in my presentation, the last episode. I said part 35 when it should be part 36. I'm pretty sure most of you understand the error and know that it was part 36 and not part 35, because I've already done part 35. So thanks for that. So this is the continuation, or actually this is not even a continuation. This is the final in the series. Can Burkina Faso be set free? Can Africa be set free? And for which I also ask that you ask for a little patience, a little more of your patience and your time as you listen, because I am sure that I won't be able to present this final episode as effectively as I would like to, or thoroughly as possible, if within my regular time. So if I go over a few minutes, please understand and overstand. Now, if you haven't yet watched or listened to part 1 through to part 36, and hopefully in that consecutive order, I ask that you please do so before going forward with this part number 37, or that you please do so at your earliest convenience. I can almost assure you that by doing so, you may learn something new, which from my perspective, learning something new is what this thing called life is all about. We should be learning something new each moment, each day. You may also, by doing so, you may also be reminded about something, or of something, or at the very least, you may get something to think about, something to ponder about, something to talk about, something to disagree with, or something to agree with, or at worst, something to provoke you to see things a little bit differently, to see things outside of the regular box that the system cages in. And please note that I did not say that by listening to yours truly, I, the Mystic Philosopher, that you will learn something, but that you may learn something. The operative word again here is may. No, there's no guarantee. Because the truth be told, these talks, these presentations that I'm doing are definitely not for everyone. I'm well aware of the possibility, if not the fact, that some of you, my listeners, might be off-ended by the truth, and more correctly, off-ended by the facts that are enveloped therein. But as the late Robert Nesta Marley said in one of his most famous songs called Jaliv, and I quote, "The truth is an offense, but not a sin," unquote. And to quote the late Dale Carnegie out of the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, he once said, "Those convinced against their will is of the same opinion still," unquote. And for the record, I am not a con, and neither am I trying to con you, to convert you, to convince you, to confound you, even to congregate you, or to confuse you. No, not at all. I'm not a con for anyone, or I'm not trying to con anyone, or I'm just sharing another perspective, or some of my perspectives on a lot of things from yours truly, I, the Mystic P's angle of observation. And in this series, I'm sharing what I perceive and think and know. I know that must be done. That may, but must be done in order for our motherland, I'll keep your land, commonly known as Africa today, and by extension all her children, home and abroad, to be free, not to gain freedom, but to be free. Now please note, not for us to be still under the dome. They say they gave us independence and freedom. Not at all. But to be free. More on that later. Now, for those of you that have been listening to some, if not all of my previous episodes or presentations, you will already know that my answer to these two questions, number one, can Africa be set free? And number two, can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, the land of people of integrity, be set free? You don't know that it is a resounding yes. In fact, it is yes, yes, and much more yeses. And I have no doubt about such a possibility. However, the purpose of this series is to show you, from the Mystic Philosopher's perspective and I spiritual and intellectual insights, how and when Africa, Burkina Faso, and by extension, we all African people home and abroad can and will be set free from the tyranny of the soulless creatures. Yes, their imperialism and their colonialism. It was the late Maya Angelou who once said, again I quote, "The truth is, no one of us can be free until everybody is free," unquote. And with that fact in mind, we both know that none of us Africans, none of us highly melanated people, none of us, be it nations or individual, can be free until all of us are indeed free. Now, in at least two of my previous episodes, I ask you to please stay tuned, for I will have much more to say and talk to you about colonization, or the colonization of the mind, aka mental colonization, in my new upcoming series. And just to give you a heads up, the title of that series is Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell Revisited. And it promises to be a very informative and a very thought-provoking series of lecture presentations. And one in which, and as customary, I will present as much logical argument, as much reasoning, and practical examples. I will also present relevant reference materials and proven facts that will both support, substantiate, and prove whatever points that I am making or that I will be making. In other words, it will be a facts-filled and not a faith-filled series of presentations. And some of the thoughts or some of the thought-provoking ideas and unique perspectives that I will be sharing with you will be on topics such as words, language, and languages, and the power of words, the power of language, the power of names, the power of signs and symbols, energy, cymatics, frequency vibrations, curses, spells, and above all, and in particular as it relates to us, the natural native earthly humans, the earth organic humans, yes, the earth's highly enriched melanin and carbon skin complexion people, aka us Africans, the curse and the destructive power. I will be focusing on the curse and the destructive power of the dark magicians and soulless creatures, aka the imperialist and colonialist the word black, and why we must immediately stop calling ourselves black and immediately stop accepting being called black. The colonization, I will focus again on the colonization of the mind, aka mental colonization, and much, much more. So stay tuned for that. And to close off this series and segue into the aforementioned new series, namely Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell Revisited, here is another very important fact that I must share with you. As long as we continue to speak the language of our colonizers, and especially as long as we continue to speak it as our main or as our only means of communication, and thereby allowing them to colonize our minds with their words, with their concepts, with their philosophies and ideologies, and their grammar, aka their grammari, or grammari, etc., then as a people we cannot, and we will never be free. And thus we will forever continue to be their subjects, their citizens, their slaves, their puppets, and their footstools. Now, from my perspective, to have you all, my listeners, get a better understanding, and overstanding, or to have you better understand, and overstand of what colonization of the mind, aka mental colonization, really and truly is, and above all, how cancerous and deadly it is, we need to revisit, dissect, and decode the words colonization and colonialism a bit deeper than what I've done previously. And in order to do so, let me ask you, or let me ask and answer the following question. What is colonialism? In one of my previous episodes, I told you that imperialism equal colonialism, which is equal to demonism, equal devilism, or to summarize it, imperialism is unadulterated wickedness. It is morally reprehensible. I also told you that we must know, and know that we know, that there is absolutely no one that is involved with the practice of these or of those philosophies and ideologies that is good. No one. And that there is absolutely nothing about imperialism equal colonialism, which is equal to demonism, which is equal to devilism, and can always rearrange the equation. No one, that is nothing about it that is good. Full stop, period. We know and know that we know that anything and everything that is associated with or promoted by imperialism and its practitioners is polluted and thus dangerous and not good, especially for us Africans and people, highly melanated people the world over. Let's examine the word colonialism, and by extension, colonization, a bit closer and much deeper. By careful observation of and examination of the word colonialism, like myself, you too, my listeners, may have noticed that it is a compound English word, meaning that it is consisting of at least two words, namely the root colonial and the suffix ism, aka colonial plus ism. And just to remind some of you that according to the slave masters and oppressors, colonizers and persecutors and their heirs and successors language, in this case the English language or the British language, the definition, meaning and purpose of a suffix is that it is a syllable, meaning one letter or one character, or it is some syllables, meaning a group of letters or characters that if or when it is added to or at the end of a word or added at the end of a stem word, aka a root word, it will form a new word that is related in meaning to the root word, or if you prefer to the stem word. It will form a new word that is relating to in meaning to the root word, or as I mentioned, the stem word to which it is added. In other words, the combination of the root word and the suffix will form a new word that is related in meaning to the root or to the stem word. So colonial plus ism gives us colonialism. But in order to know and understand exactly what colonialism really and truly is, we have to know and understand what colonial is. It's not my language, I can't pronounce the word properly, as I would like to. And again, by careful observation and examination of the word colonial, you too may realize and admit that it is also a compound word that consists of two words mainly: colon, the root, and ial, the suffix, ial, the suffix. So here again we see that colon plus ial produces the new word colonial. But in order to know and understand what colonial really and truly is, we have to look a little deeper. We have to know and understand what colon is. So what do we observe from all this thus far? We observe that at the root of the word colonialism and the word colonial is the word colon, C-O-L-O-N. And for your information, or as you may have already noticed, that the words colon, colony, colonize, colonization, colonial, colonial, colonialist, and colonialism are all related to the same one root or stem word, which is colon. Colon. Now, what is colon? And why is it significant to know and understand the evil concept, evil ideology and philosophy that is enveloped, or that is therein enveloped? It is to see, know, and prove who and what our colonizers are by the way they have treated us, or by the way they have treated our most honorable ancestors, and the way that they are treating us, the ascendants of our most honorable ancestors, and all other native peoples of the world today. So colon is defined as a punctuation. The colon sign, a punctuation. Now, with the exception of the colonizers, dark magicians, and those of you that are in know will know what I'm talking about. With the exception of the colonizers, dark magicians, writing and casting spells of imperialism, colonialism, and colonization on their innocent victims across the globe. That meaning and definition of colon means a punctuation mark need not be emphasized at this time as it relates to colonial and colonialism, etc. However, colon is also defined as part of the large intestine that extends from the cecum to the rectum in our body. Now, the cecum is a pouch connected to the junction of the small and large intestines. And the rectum is the final section of the large intestine, terminating at the anus, also known as the ASS hole. In fact, just to show and prove to you how words are indeed powerful, and some of the hidden truths that are enveloped in them, and why it is imperative that we Africans, we highly melanated people, we the victims of the soulless, rootless, restless brutes, aka the imperialist and colonialist creatures, we to whom the language does not belong, is that our language? So that should alone allow you to understand when I can't pronounce that. It's not our language, that's my tongue. Wish I hadn't have to use it. Just to show and prove to you why we must dissect and decode them in order to know how they are used against us. Look how I spell at us. Here's a quote from a medical website called clevelandclinic.org, and I quote, "Your large intestine includes your cecum, C-E-C-U-M, cecum, colon, rectum, and anus. It's all one long tube that starts at your small intestine as food nears the end of its journey through your digestive system. Your large intestine turns food waste into stool and passes it from your body when you poop." Unquote. And from this code, plus our own common knowledge, what is known to be in the large intestine? The question here, what is known to be in the large intestine? Of course, feces, stools, aka SHI, finish the rest. So they chew us up, eat us up, and dispose of us like poop. Colony is defined by the English dictionary as, and again I quote, a body or a group of people who leave their native country and settle in another land, but who remain subject to their mother country. Unquote. In my own words, colony is a body or a group of people who have their own native country, or rather who leave their own native country and go abroad to ruthlessly, cruelly, and mercilessly dispossess other people of their own natural native lands in order to settle in it, in order to make it their commonwealth, in order to rape it, in order to rob and steal from it, and then send the loot back to their native country to make it, meaning to make it their, to make their native country richer, wealthier, and much more powerful, so that they can continue with so that they can and that they will continue their evil and malevolent practices and behavior, which is to invade, settle, and dispossess more of the earth's natural native peoples, of their countries, and of their homes, of their lands, of their wealth and natural resources, and to send that which they loot, to send back the loot to their native homeland, to which they remain, that native's homeland, loyal and royal subjects. And that is what colony is all about. And the act of doing this is known as to colonize. In fact, colonize is defined as, again I quote, to migrate, two, and to establish a colony in other people's land or in other people's homes. And two, when a country, colonize is defined as when a country, example England or United States, or its citizens, send a group of settlers to a place and establish political control over it, unquote. And that is to colonize a people, aka that is colonization. And the actual people that performs this wicked and barbaric act are known as colonizers. And to think that any colonizer, aka that is known today as foreign investors, they are colonizers, to think that they have your interest or our interest at heart is definitely not wise. Now it's stupid. Example, we know of a fact that the malevolent Caucasoid people, including the Spanish, the Germans, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the French, and the English, or the British, etc., we know that they left their native lands or their native countries in the Caucasus or in the Caucasus Mountain, and they traveled to the ends of the earth, setting up colonies, killing, raping, pillaging, looting, you name it. The native inhabitants of all the lands that they came in contact with, while remaining loyal and royal subjects of their native homeland in the Caucasus. And for the record, there was only, and it's arguably, one exception, and that is the United States. Example, the malevolent Caucasoid people, including, as mentioned before, the Spanish, the Germans, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the French, the British, they left their native land in the Caucasus and migrate to our motherland, Alkebulan, commonly called Africa today, and to the West. To do what? To colonize and to manifest their inherent characteristics of disease, pain, suffering, genocides, death, destruction, and all manner of crimes against humanity on our people and the natives of all the other lands that they came in contact with. Now, colonial is defined as relating to a colony or colonies, especially relating to the British colonies. which have become part of the British Commonwealth. Can you imagine? Take people and become their Commonwealth. Now, just for information again, the word prefix, ism. For those of you that have that may have listened to me or heard me speak before or in other presentations, or if any of you have ever read any of my writings, you may have heard me state that all words that end with ism, having studied, analyzed the imperialist language, all words that end with the suffix ism are not good for us, the natural native earthly humans. Maybe good for them, but not good for us, the natural native earthly humans. Yes, we, the earth's organic humans, aka commonly called Africans. Whenever we hear any word that ends with ism, we must know immediately that it is not good for us and that we must stay the hell away from it. For example, the word race. By itself, it's fine. But when it becomes racism, that's when it becomes a problem for us. The word social is okay. But when it becomes socialism, that is when it might becomes a problem for us. The word capital is fine. But when it becomes capitalism, that is when it becomes a problem for us. Imperial may be fine. But when it becomes imperialism, that's when it becomes a problem for us, the natural native earthly human. And the word Baptist is fine. But when it becomes baptism, that is when it becomes a problem for us, the natural native earthly humans. We, the earth's organic humans, highly melanated people. And the list goes on and on and on. For information, the suffix word ism is defined as a distinctive practice, a system or philosophy, typically a political ideology or an artistic movement, unquote. Now, colonialism is defined as a system of colonial rule, which, as our own practical experiences with the colonial power have shown, it is to treat people that is not like themselves, people who they colonize, to treat them like we are waste. Colon, like we are feces, like we are stool, aka shit, we are poop. Or you know what? In their system. That's how they treat us. They can't help themselves. So this is the end of this series titled Can Africa Be Set Free? Can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, be set free? And please stay tuned, for I will have much more to share with you in my aforementioned new series titled Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell Revisited. In the meantime and between time, here's willing that you be more and more and more and much, much more, and definitely not less. Please again, let no one be less you, for I am the Mystic Philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say. Please share, and I look forward to see you in the next series. Thanks again.